I came early to the coffee shop because that's what I do now. I arrive before I'm expected. I choose a table with my back to the wall. I notice the doors. It's a habit I picked up without meaning to. The kind that settles in after life teaches you how quickly things can change. Table 7 sat near the front window. Outside, the late afternoon in Boulder felt thin and cold, the kind of cold that sneaks under your jacket and reminds you winter is never far away. I held a black coffee I didn't really want and told myself I'd stay 30 minutes, be polite, be decent, then go home. My sister had talked me into this. Lauren is younger than me by enough years to still believe people can be fixed with the right timing and a little hope. She'd texted all week like this date was a small act of rescue. Just coffee, Evan. 1 hour. Show up. So I showed up. The steamy beans smelled like roasted beans and cinnamon. A couple argued quietly over pastries. Someone laughed too loud near the counter. It was all very normal, and that almost made me nervous. Normal things don't stay normal for long. I learned that 2 years ago, on a snow-covered highway when my parents didn't come home. I was watching the front door when it opened and a rush of cold swept inside. A woman rolled in on an electric wheelchair. She had blonde hair pulled into a loose braid and wore a gray sweater that looked soft, like it had been worn 100 times. She scanned the room, her eyes moving table to table. Then she saw me. I lifted my hand in a small wave, unsure if I was right. She rolled closer, and that's when everything shifted. Her face changed, not slowly, but all at once, like someone had pulled the ground out from under her. Her chair stopped so suddenly it jerked. Her hands shook on the controls. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. She cried right there in front of everyone. I stood up too fast, my chair scraping the floor. My heart pounded, not with embarrassment, but confusion. I hadn't said a word. I hadn't done anything. Yet whatever she saw when she looked at me hurt her deeply. "Ava?" I asked softly, keeping my voice low. She nodded without meeting my eyes. She wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand like she was angry at herself for letting this happen. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't do this. Not again." People tried not to stare. Some did anyway. I knelt beside her so I wasn't standing over her so I wouldn't feel like another problem looming in her space. "It's okay," I said. "If this isn't what you expected, we don't have to do anything." She pointed at her chair like it explained everything. "I thought my friend said the guy would understand," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't want pity. I don't want someone sitting with me because they feel bad." The word pity landed heavy in my chest, not because it offended me, but because it sounded old, like she'd been here before. "I'm not here out of pity," I said carefully. "I'm here because I said I would show up. If you want to leave, I'll walk you out. If you want to sit for 5 minutes, we can do that too." She looked at me then, really looked, like she was deciding whether to believe me. After a long moment, she took a breath and rolled toward the table. We sat in silence for a few seconds, the noise of the café slowly returning around us. She wrapped her hands around her mug when it came, as if grounding herself. Then she lifted her eyes again. "Before we go any further," she said quietly, "I need to ask you something." I felt something tighten in my chest as I nodded, already sensing the weight behind her words. She held my gaze like she needed to know the answer before she let herself breathe again. Her eyes were still red but steady now. Whatever storm had passed through her a moment ago had left something raw behind. "Do you still want to be here?" she asked. "I mean, do you actually want to date me?" The question didn't come out dramatic. It came out tired. Like she had asked it before and already knew how it usually ended. I didn't rush my answer. I didn't want to say the right thing. I wanted to say the honest thing. "Yes," I said. "I do. If you want to talk, I'm here for that. If you want to see where this goes, I'd like that too." Her shoulders dropped just a little, like she'd been holding herself up with focus alone. She nodded once. "Okay," she said. "No hero stuff, no pretending." "I'm not good at hero stuff anyway," I replied, and that earned a small smile. The cafe settled back into itself. Cups clinked. The espresso machine hissed. It felt like the world had decided to leave us alone. Ava took a sip of her cappuccino and studied me again, slower this time. "So," she said, What did your sister tell you about me? Almost nothing, I admitted. Your name, your age, and that I needed to stop hiding. Her brow lifted slightly. Hiding from what? I looked down at my coffee. Life, I guess. My parents died 2 years ago. Car accident. After that, I stopped trusting things that felt good. She nodded, not with pity but recognition. That explains why you keep watching the door, she said. I blinked. I didn't realize I was. I do it too, she said softly. That was the first moment I felt seen, not fixed, not examined, just noticed. After a pause, she asked if I wanted to know why she used the wheelchair. I told her she didn't owe me anything. She looked at me like she was testing whether I meant it. Then she told me anyway. 4 years earlier, she'd been a competitive skier, lived for speed and cold air. One morning near Aspen, a car slid on black ice and hit her head on. She woke up to machines and doctors and words she never wanted to hear. She would never walk again. Her voice stayed calm as she spoke, but I felt every word. Car accidents have a way of echoing in my chest. My boyfriend stayed for 2 months, she said. Then he said I wasn't the person he fell in love with anymore. I didn't interrupt, I just listened. She noticed that too. I rebuilt, she said. I work in adaptive tech now. I make things that help people live. That sounds like purpose, I said. She shrugged. Or survival. When the cafe started closing, neither of us wanted to rush. Outside, the cold felt sharper, but clearer. As we stood there, she looked up at me. This wasn't what I expected tonight, she said. Me neither, I replied, but I'm glad you stayed. She smiled, small but real. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something open instead of closing. The next morning, Ava texted first. Just a short message with a time and a place. A public park near Pearl Street. No pressure, she added, like she was reminding herself as much as me. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to. My old instinct was to find a reason not to go. I was good at that, but I went anyway. The park was quiet in the afternoon, the kind of quiet that carries sound instead of swallowing it. Distant traffic, a dog barking somewhere. The Flatirons stood steady in the background, like they always had, like they always would. Ava waited by a bench with a thermos in her lap. When she saw me, she smiled in a way that told me she had already decided something about me. Not everything. Just enough. We moved along the paved trail together. She rolled. I walked beside her. It felt natural in a way that surprised me. We talked about small things first. Older people and their smoothies. My job. Her habit of collecting notebooks she never finished. A few days later, she invited me to her apartment. Ground floor, wide doorways, low counters, sketches taped to the walls, prototypes scattered across her table like her mind never rested. She showed me a handle she was designing to help people grip better. You turned pain into something useful, I said. Or I just refused to disappear, she replied. I went with her to physical therapy the next week. I watched her push through exercises that made my arms ache just from seeing them. Sweat beaded on her forehead. She didn't complain once. That's my real life, she said in the parking lot, watching my face closely. I know, I said, and I'm still here. That night, sitting on her couch with pizza between us, I realized I was falling for her. Not because of the chair, not because of a story about strength, but because she was sharp and honest and made my quiet life feel less like a hiding place. A few days later, I reached for her hand in the park. She pulled back. People are looking, she whispered. I don't care, I said. I do, she replied. What if one day you do too? I stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. I'm choosing you, I said. And I'm not backing away just because the world stares. She didn't answer right away. Then she nodded once, small and unsure. The brush of her shoulder against mine felt like a promise neither of us said out loud. A week later, sitting with a deck of cards between us, I heard myself say something I hadn't planned. Come meet my friends sometime. Nothing big, just a barbecue. She froze just for a second, then she looked up at me. Are you sure you want that? She asked. I didn't know yet how much that question would matter. But I knew my answer. Yes, I said, and meant it. The morning of the barbecue, I woke with that familiar tightness in my chest. The kind that shows up when something matters more than you want it to. I told myself it was just nerves about seeing old friends, but I knew better. I was afraid they would look at Ava and only see the chair. I was afraid she would feel it. and I was afraid that if she did, she would pull away before I could stop her. Ava came over before we left. She wore dark jeans and a soft sweater, her hair braided the way she did when she wanted to feel steady. When I opened the door, she gave me a careful smile. "Last chance to cancel," she said. "I'm not canceling," I replied. "And if anyone says something stupid, we leave." She studied my face like she was reading code. "You can't fight everyone." "I don't need to," I said. "I just need to choose you." She nodded, even if it scared her. The backyard smelled like grilled burgers in summer. People I hadn't seen in years laughed and hugged and acted like time hadn't passed. For a while, it was okay. Ava talked about her work. People listened. She had that way of owning her space without asking permission. Then the comments started. Soft ones. The kind that hide behind smiles. "You're so brave," someone told her, like living her life was an act of courage for their benefit. Another guy joked about her arm strength. Ava smiled through it. But I saw the tension in her jaw. I saw the way her eyes checked mine, asking without words if I noticed. I did. The worst moment came when I was grabbing drinks. An old friend leaned close and nodded toward Ava. "She seems nice," he said. "But are you sure about this?" "Sure about what?" I asked. "You know," he said, "that's a lot. You used to be the hiking guy." I looked at him and felt something settle inside me. "She's not a burden," I said. "And if you talk about her like that again, we're done." We left early. Ava didn't argue. In the van, her tears came fast and quiet. "I hate this," she said. "I hate being the thing people talk around." I took her hand. "Look at me," I said. "You're not my project. You're the person who makes my world feel alive again." She stared at me like she was afraid to believe it. "I love you," I said before fear could stop me. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was honest. She didn't answer right away. Ava looked down at our hands like she was making sure they were really there. When she looked back up, her eyes were wet but steady. "I love you too," she said quietly. Saying it out loud seemed to surprise her as much as it did me. We didn't rush after that. We sat in the parked van for a long time, the mountains dark against the sky. When we finally drove back to Boulder, I didn't drop her off and leave. I went inside with her, and we sat on her couch while the night settled in around us. We talked about things we hadn't said yet. The kind of things you only say when you know someone might stay. She told me about days when her body still felt like a stranger. I told her about nights when I still replay the phone call that took my parents away. We didn't try to fix each other. We just listened. The next morning I opened my phone and stared at the old group chat from my hometown. My thumb hovered. Then I typed the truth. That Ava mattered to me. That she wasn't a cause or a lesson. That if people couldn't respect her, they couldn't be in my life. The replies came slowly. Some apologies. Some silence. One message from the guy who'd made the comment, short and awkward but sincere enough. I took coffee to Ava's place and held her hand while she read them. She didn't smile right away. Then she leaned her head against my shoulder. A few days later, we went to the farmer's market downtown. Crowds, music, the smell of bread and fruit. The kind of place Ava usually avoided. We moved through it together, careful and unhurried. Halfway through, she reached for my hand first. "Let them look," she said softly. "I'm done hiding." I looked at her then and understood something I hadn't before. I wasn't brave for staying. She was brave for letting me in. As we stood there, she turned to me. "If you really mean what you say," she asked, her voice calm but trembling underneath. "What happens next for us?" I squeezed her fingers. "We keep choosing each other," I said. "Not when it's easy, when it's real." She nodded and her smile came slow and sure. That night we went back to her place and made dinner together. Nothing special. Pasta, a simple salad, music playing low from her speaker. She chopped vegetables at the lowered counter, while I stirred sauce and tried not to burn the garlic. Every now and then our eyes met, and there was that quiet spark that didn't need explaining. Later, wrapped in a blanket on the couch, she leaned her head against my shoulder. The city lights outside her window softened the room. "Can I ask you something without you getting upset?" she said. "You can ask me anything." She hesitated, then asked about kids. "Not right now, just someday. The question landed heavier than I expected, not because it scared me, but because it meant she was letting me see her future. I used to think about that, I said. Then I stopped picturing any future at all. Lately, I've started imagining things again. She smiled, her eyes shining. I want a real life, she said, not just proof I can exist. In the weeks that followed, we built small routines. Sunday mornings at the same coffee shop where the barista already knew her order. Evenings at my place where she laughed at my terrible guitar playing. Long drives where her hand rested on my arm like it belonged there. There were hard days too. Mornings when pain made her quiet and sharp. One day she snapped at me when I offered help, then looked ashamed. I hate needing things, she said. Needing isn't weakness, I told her. You don't have to earn love by being easy. She let the words sink in, then reached for my hand. Stay, she whispered. I'm here, I said. When my sister visited, she took one look at us and nearly cried. She joked to hide it, but her voice shook. Ava teased her about setting us up. And Lauren just smiled like she'd been waiting for this all along. After she left, Ava said, She really loves you. She saved me, I replied. Ava nodded. Then maybe it's time you stop just surviving. The idea stayed with me, building, not just feelings, a life. 2 months later, on a clear fall evening, I asked Ava to drive with me out toward the reservoir. The water was still, reflecting a sky that was slowly turning gold and purple. The air smelled like pine and cold earth. I brought a blanket, 2 cups of hot chocolate, and something small in a paper bag that felt heavier than it should have. She rolled beside me along the smooth path and gave me a sideways look. This feels planned, she said. It is, I admitted. I knelt in front of her, right there under the open sky. My hands shook, and I didn't try to hide it. The night we met, I said, you asked me if I still wanted to date you. I didn't know then what I was really saying yes to. I was saying yes to life again. You brought me back. Her eyes filled before I even finished. I'm not here because I'm brave, I said. I'm here because you're worth choosing, every day. I opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small blue stone that caught the last light of the sun. Ava, I said, my voice breaking, will you marry me? For a moment she didn't move. Then she laughed and cried at the same time, her hands trembling as she covered her mouth. Yes, she said, yes, I will. Our wedding wasn't perfect. It was better than that. It was honest. We chose a small greenhouse with wide paths and warm light. Ava designed parts of her dress herself. When she rolled down the aisle, people stood, not out of sympathy, but because she was radiant. In our vows, I promised to choose her, not as someone I carried, but as my partner. She promised to let herself be loved, even on the hard days. Now, some evenings, we sit on our balcony as the mountains darken in the distance. She rests her head on my shoulder. The world feels quieter here. Sometimes she asks if I think about that first night. All the time, I tell her. She smiles and says she was sure I would leave. I was sure too, I admit, but then I stayed. And staying, I've learned, can be the bravest thing of all. If this story settled gently in you, stay a while. There's always another quiet truth waiting just beyond the porch.